topic that I would suggest is the Prayer of Peace by St. Francis. And I can read it and then we can go.
Yeah.
And if we've got extra time, I'd be happy to talk about anger. Okay. Hello!
Father John is ticked off. Look out!
So, here we are, Father. It's June 2nd. We're getting ready for Mass opening up this Sunday at St. Philip the Apostle. Preparations are underway. Could you let everyone know again what the schedule is going to be?
Pray that everything falls into place. We particularly need our signs. But because we're limited by the number of people in church, and I've heard two different points of view. One that, people are going to show up, they want to come back to church, and I think it's coming the first week. So we'll be prepared for a year. That we're going to run, it's going to be like 40-minute masses. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 and 1 in Spanish. And then, we don't have to wait too long. If by any chance you're the 101st person who says sorry, we're under strict orders, we can't go over that. You don't have to wait for 2 hours. The next mass will be coming up, and we'll run on the hour. And then 5 o'clock in the evening.
Sunday at 5 o'clock.
Sunday at 5.
There's no vigil.
Not this week. We'll open on Sunday, Trinity Sunday. And then ideally, daily mass will start the next day.
Okay. So, bring your face covering. If you're sick, please don't come. If you are very in a sensitive category, use discretion about deciding whether to come. It's your choice, but there are recommendations from some health officials that it might be better not to. And we will be streaming live very soon, I think.
Very soon. It's going to take a while to put everything in. They gave me a date for the internet hookups and the wiring. We have to have a camera. I have this new fancy camera that goes up in the choir loft so that we can live stream inside the church without having to put a tripod in the middle.
That's actually a really good angle, too, because then you'll get to see the whole beauty of the church from there.
We could have, with nobody in the church, you see that internet, we could have put a tripod right up in front of the altar, not now. But then we have to get the internet and the wiring to lead up into the choir loft, going underneath the church and then back up. And
it's a project.
Yeah, it is. Sure. But it won't take too long. Expensive though.
Well, if anybody wants to donate to make that happen, how do they do that? Talk to you.
Yeah, fill out your checkbook. Come to the office. Buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Or send a donation to the parish in the mail.
Yeah, from our finance council, they told me the whole project's going to be about $50,000. And this means we go into the reserve because with our income cut of whatever our income cut was, 50-60%. Yeah, it was tough. I mean, thank goodness, thank God for the people who were on Faith Direct, who continued supporting throughout the entire thing.
But it's really important for people to know that your salaries and everything else, the expenses are just as much as...
Every employee's been on full salary up till now, and we're covered through June 30th.
By the government thing.
Yeah, we had already committed before the PPP loans came on that we would go into our savings for a certain amount of time and see what happens. So thank God the PPP came up because we were committed through June 30th. Anyway, now we're covered for salary. But
All right, well, that's a great announcement. Let's have our opening prayer. Father John, you're the man.
Okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow your love. Where there is offense, let me bring your pardon. When there is discord, let me bring union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, let me bring your light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. O Master, let me not seek as much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that one receives. It is in forgetting oneself that one finds. It is in pardoning that one is pardoned. It is in dying that one is raised to eternal life.
Amen. That's a beautiful prayer. Can you tell us about that prayer?
Somebody suggested it.
Who wrote that prayer? Because it seems very foreign to the culture that we're living in these days.
Well, that was 900 years ago.
And who was this guy?
St. Francis.
St. Francis of Assisi. Yes. Probably the best known of all the saints. Certainly the most respected today. Saint of the ecological movement and so many other good things.
You know, you go to Assisi, spend a week there, you find out he is the saint who is in love with Jesus Christ. Because you're reading all of that. What is the source of all of those things? Christ himself.
That's right. Well, you could therefore praise the moon and praise God,
Stars.
and praise the stars, because all of them reflected the art of the Creator.
Yes. Brother Mun and Brother Sun and Sister Moon.
Well, what do you think St. Francis would say today if he were here in Los Angeles?
Can you imagine him coming around in his robes that were
Tatters.
absolutely tatters and saying to everybody, do you really need what you have? I mean, even if he went to the poorest South Central and looked, and he would say, do you really need all that to be happy? If he went to the poorest barrios of Los Angeles, I think he would say, whoa, 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 whoa. You're so obsessed about
Things. Yeah.
things. It's all about a relationship.
And that's sort of, that. I think you've got something there, and I'm just wondering, that's sort of a shock of knowing someone kind of parachute in on our culture from a radically different perspective, and bringing with them their Christ-like values could really have a good effect on people and make them stop and take notice. What is wrong here? We're missing the most important element of our life, and we're chasing all these things that don't make us happy, and that creates frustration, and then that frustration occasionally belches out in the sorts of things that we've been seeing across the country for the last few days. And I don't want to make light of the injustice that has triggered it at all, but it's so, the response has been so disproportionate and ineffective in addressing the core problem of poor families and racism and all that. A lot of energy is getting spent here, but how much gain is happening? How much improvement is happening?
I just pray that we take a step back and we really ask what is truly needed here. Because the church needs to do that itself. I mean, we only have so much energy. And yes, we need to feed people, but if we're not feeding them spiritually, if we're not feeding their families, if we're not healing family life, I think there's going to be a lot of bitterness out there, and we're going to, we've never been so blessed and yet so unhappy. And
So blessed in material things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We're overflowing.
And yet, family life, I think, is in an all-time crisis. No one Not even the church is talking about it. That's what worries
Right.
me.
Father Tony, you're named after Anthony, who is one of the followers of St. Francis. So I'm sure he must be near and dear to your heart too.
He is. I just, I actually have sympathy for him because he created an unsolvable problem for himself. And that he didn't want to own anything. He lived by begging. And so many people wanted to join him, and later with Clare and the Poor Clares and so forth. But the order couldn't survive without owning property, having a place for people to live. You can do it with a handful of men or with, I don't know how many.
Oh, thousands of Franciscans.
Eventually, but at the beginning, 40, 50, you can make that work, but thousands. But he didn't want to own anything.
Mm-hmm. So I read a book on the life of St. Francis of Assisi. It's by Father Augustine Thompson, who is a Dominican priest and a scholar, historian, medieval historian. You know him? Augustine Thompson.
A Dominican writing on a Franciscan. Well, it's better than a Dominican writing about a Jesuit. So
yeah. But it was one of the most moving books that I've ever read, and it's
Really?
actually one of the books that caused me to say I need to set aside my law practice and go back to school and study theology.
Wow. What's the name of the book?
It's called St. Francis of Assisi, Father Augustine Thompson. It received a number of awards, and the part that I love about it is he took on the life of St. Francis and the research in it as purely an historian. And there's a lot of myth surrounding St. Francis and stuff. He set all that aside. I'm going to focus on what the documents actually say. And this is a Dominican at work, so not a Franciscan by spirituality. And over the course of the book, you saw him fall in love with St. Francis. And it's a very powerful book because you see that progression going on. He's able to fill out the true personality of St. Francis from a recovery of the actual historical documents.
Fascinating. I think that's going to be my next read.
It's well worth it.
How long is the book?
250 pages.
Oh.
I mean, it's not overly long, and they're good. I don't remember exactly now, but I think he's got some appendices where you can actually see copies of the original or translations of the original, so that you can make up your own mind too. But it's a rigorous historian's analysis that leads into a real understanding of the person of St. Francis. Incredibly holy man. Had a true conversion experience that is probably one of the greatest in the history of Christianity. But, and this is, again, the Dominican looking at the records here, he was a terrible manager. Terrible manager. In fact, he was the founder of the order. He ordered his superiors, or he ordered his inferiors not to follow his orders. I hereby order you, whatever I say, don't do it. Because he wanted to be humble, but then the next moment he would order them to do something. It'd be very complex personality going on there.
And he was a lot more radical than people thought. I mean, you look at where he slept, and basically on stone, a little bit of hay, and he would have as a pillow a log. Wow.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you might do that on a bad camp out night, but day after day, week after week, year after year.
He was a tough guy. Where he walked from here to there, he must have been a really tough individual.
Physically hard.
Resilient. Yeah.
But he did die, I think, before the age of 50. I don't remember exactly, but
He never became a priest.
No. And he did not want to become a deacon either. He became a deacon toward the end of his life at the request of some priests, so that he could be more in preaching.
At what age did he receive stigmata?
That I don't
Remember?
know. I don't remember.
When we lived with it.
I think it was early on.
Yeah, I don't remember the profile of it. But that's all would be covered in the book. So it's
Sorry, I just got off the podcast. Tired.
You're a better man than I.
well, another insight that I think about him that applies to our age now is he was an amazing leader, and he led by example. And we are really desperate these days for people who are leading by example, not little words out of a that are canned or coined because I've got to make that special reverential statement for this or that, but really walking the walk and talking the right talk. I think that could be really refreshing for people. It would be almost newsworthy to see someone like a St. Francis actually just walking down the street.
Or Mother Teresa.
Or Mother Teresa.
Or John Paul II. How he handled his old age and that suffering. Yeah. The church is, and the world is hungering for that. Every community is hungering for that.
Well, and we're told that God does send us what we need at the right times. And so maybe if we pray for that sort of leadership, we will start to see it.
I cannot touch that. I'll get in trouble.
Oh no, I'm not referring to any specific individual. I'm trying to think about this thing from a more of a global thing, because it's not a particular church, it's not even a particular government or a particular state. There's an infection here, a virus that causes our leaders to duck the serious issues, to throw some rhetoric at it, to pander to a particular group, to say the right magic words for that group, to push their emotional buttons, and then the next night they're at a different dinner or a different party or a different group, and they're pushing almost the opposite buttons to pander to that group. And they have the feeling that somehow that's called leadership. And it's not.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're looking at the self-destruction of the culture. That's the only question, how many years it's going to take.
Well, if it continues this way, but I think that's where I think the hope of leadership is, because I think the great majority of people really do care about the common good. They're prepared to make sacrifices for the common good, but they need some leadership to let them know, how do I do that?
And I'm in total agreement. My only thing would be, I keep hearing we need to go to the root of all this. And I've heard one person talk about the root of it. And somebody I know, and I think he's a brilliant person, Bill Bennett.
Oh, well,
And he was going, okay, he said, the nation has to have a talk, but it can't be talking points. It has to be what is causing poverty, what is causing this rage, what is causing injustice. And let's examine it honestly. And I think the church is in such a wonderful place to do that. And yet, I'm still waiting, and I'm hoping that this will be a great opportunity for some archbishop or bishop or priest to go and start really going down deep into this problem and saying, okay, what are we going to do about it?
mm-hmm. You just triggered an idea in my mind, but go ahead.
Well, no, just sorry, I don't want to be cynical tonight, but
we all know it's been a long bicycle ride, so.
Well, it was indoors, but it was intervals and it was hard.
Okay.
Just trying to think, we need to get us out of it is the thing that's marginalized the most. Judeo-Christian values that promoted the best parts of our culture. And when you throw those aside, and marginalize those, and
Or
marginalize faith and religion, well then what, it doesn't just go away. There's a vacuum that's filled by greed, by racism, by violence, by anger, by rage, by it's not fair.
Church not being essential. Hey.
Liberty is not important. Equality is. You saw what that did with the Soviet Union.
Well, as the pie keeps shrinking,
yeah,
the competition gets more and more intense, and the winners and losers become more and more pronounced. Father John, you triggered an idea in my mind, and I was thinking this is something where perhaps the church can get involved at the local level, really to make a difference. And what I was thinking about, we have a program, a Big Brother program, that's been, I think, fairly successful, where you have
is the Knights of Malta?
No. This is just
Big
a
Brother,
social,
the
Big Brother program,
right?
Where you have someone who spends some time with someone who doesn't have a father, and develop a relationship. You can serve as a mentor, as a role model, as a friend, and then you come on a periodic basis. Has anyone ever tried to do that at the level of a family, where you have a family that creates a relationship with another family that maybe has been broken, maybe needs some help, some stability, and then these two families together can grow together and help each other? The best family in the world still has problems. The best family in the world still needs to be able to serve others and to really understand how to live in a charitable relationship, and be true disciples of Christ. What if you had two families like that, or have like the equivalent of a Big Brother family, but a Big Brother program, but on the level of a family in need and a family in need? This kind of infrastructure stuff. That's what a church can do.
That's the thinking we need to have.
And I love it in theory, but we deal with so many people, so many non-families, where the rage comes in. How many kids are born to father who's never been around his entire life, never married the mother, got her pregnant, took off, or both parents, I don't want to raise a kid, so if not aborted, throw them into adoption or into a group home or wherever.
Right.
The ones who need it the most are the ones that we have the hardest time getting to. But we work with that. What I think would be a great solution, in addition to that, we try to work with Foster All, which is an organization that works with Christian families to they don't adopt kids on themselves, but they know all the different adoption agencies, and they interview families and try to steer them to the one that would best suit them to take in foster kids. And they work with Christian families because they want families that aren't worried about the money. They're not doing it because we get so much from the state for each foster kid we take in. They want to give kids a chance. If we close all the group homes and have kids with the families,
that would be a huge step forward right there.
But when they come to the churches and do their pitch every year, maybe you get one or two to step up and say, "Yeah, I'd like to be foster parents." Maybe you get one or two. Out of Catholic churches that I've been involved in, maybe.
Well, then we need to hit the hearts of our people in a deeper way. So.
Well, and this is the part that I think where the church can really help, because it's not simply a matter of introducing the people to this opportunity, because any social agency can do that sort of thing. Or I can go online and get lots of information from the 5 or 10 or 20 different agencies that are out there. But really to explain what the spiritual core of taking on that mission is, and then knowing that you've got the infrastructure of the parish around you to help out, because it's a frightening thing to take on that kind of obligation.
And realize you take on the rage and the deformation instead of formation,
right?
As they've grown, and the horrible experiences have it, and you bring it into your home.
And you love them.
And you love them.
And you absorb it, and you love them.
But that's something that most families probably can't do without a little extra support and preparation to take that on. And no one wants to fail on that. No one would want to take that on and then at the end of the day saying, I just can't do this, and then have the person go back. That would be another failure on that person. So
It's a great
long
fiction.
list of
It's a
failures.
great fiction book about being a foster child. I can't think of the name of it now. White something. White Azalea, White something. It's a farm. The girl's mother murders her boyfriend by putting some whatever the flower is that's poisonous and feeding it to him in a drink, and she goes to prison, and her daughter, who is protected and isolated, gets shoved into foster care from one home to another home, and it's just shoved in, and it's almost as condemning as up in Sinclair, the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Back then, it's almost it exposes foster care. Same way the jungle exposed problems back in whatever year that was, 20s, 30s, back then.
Sinclair. Talk about Sinclair Lewis.
Sinclair Lewis.
No, it was up to Sinclair.
Was it
wasn't
up in Sinclair?
Okay.
It was, yes.
Sinclair? Yeah.
Okay. Early
20s.
teens, 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are people with a lot more expertise in this area that could help out.
But there's 1,000 different things. But when the church, and I'm not talking about the parish, but I'm talking about the church in general, had an experience of God's love, you got to do something. You can't live in your own bubble. You can't be indifferent, because indifference is poisoning you
Right.
as much as anybody else. It's having a mask and only breathing carbon monoxide. You get pretty sick after a while. And if I'm living in my own bubble, my own family's going to start to just disintegrate. And you have to understand, this is Christianity. This is love. This is what Christ is asking us to do. This is what the early church did when it went to Rome. It healed families. It went out and touched them with charity and love. And first hospitals, first schools, first everything. They used their creativity. They didn't depend on the government. They said, we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. That would be a refreshing approach. But I also think that's part of the American character. It's been repressed.
It
for
has
a generation.
Yeah,
or two.
I'm in totally agreement.
Our instinct is to, if we see a problem, form a group together, look at it, get
Tackle
the
it.
best things, solve it, and then when the group is done with the work, because the problem is solved, you go back to your respective families and carry on with life. Yeah. There's no bureaucracy that's created. There's no permitting needed. It's just use of common sense.
We wait for the government to do everything. The government is not going to teach virtue. The government is not going to teach how a heart should love. It's not going to teach charity. It's not going to teach the prayer of St. Francis. We're going to teach that. So we can have a big government that doesn't understand us, or we can have a smaller government and we do the heavy lifting.
That's our challenge.
But it takes sacrifice and generosity.
And the charity, too, that we've been looking for these days.
Yep.
One of the things I've noticed that the higher the taxes get, the less charitable that you can become, because charity only comes out of wealth in the first place. You have to have something extra, something that you've built up that's more than your elemental needs, so that you can help someone else. And if that's not there, there can't be any charity. Or it has to be charity of a different kind, like the glass of water, but not the material goods that people need in order to get well educated, to live safely, to grow and to flourish. And I'm wondering if by the running to the government for every solution, we're incapacitating ourselves to act with charity.
And we're
I'm going to give an absolute law that's been 100% true throughout history, with no exception. The bigger the government gets, the smaller the person gets.
Yep.
There's been no exception in that. You can read history, and the government is bigger and bigger and bigger. Each person becomes less and less and less. And the only thing they want from you is your money, because as they get bigger, they need more to it's just this amount to get bigger and bigger and bigger, swallowing everything up.
And that's where social, where we teach in the church subsidiarity.
Yep.
You can't just depend on the guy up there. And when you all of a sudden it's the government, they slice it. Why are you doing this? Because I love Jesus Christ and he loves me, and I need to love you. No, it's because it's coming out of the government payroll. It's all of a sudden it sterilizes so much of what used to be done in the whole structure of subsidiarity, where the churches and the communities took care of this because of love. Now we have Big Brother doing it,
Yeah.
and he's taken away all love and
You may have to go
intentionality.
backwards. You may have to go backwards, though, right? Because I would guess that the majority of people, it's the first time they ever hear of the principle of subsidiarity in the church.
I was just going to ask that. What does subsidiarity mean? And why is it such an important Catholic social doctrine?
Okay, there's two big: solidarity and subsidiarity. Solidarity is we are not independent. We have to. Our heart has to go out to the needs of others. Subsidiarity is, how do you handle a problem? You handle it on the lowest level possible, closest to the problem, because they're going to know what has to be done and how to do it in the best way. And when it gets too high, you lose then you get bloated bureaucracies, and you get waste, so much waste of money and resources, and it becomes politicized.
I'm going to have to bite my tongue here again. But you deal with things at the appropriate level. If somebody gets mad at us, they don't write to the Pope and expect the Pope to do something about it. The first step would be with us.
The parish.
Parish. We handle it at parish level.
Oh, and
But now, we look at draconian punishments immediately. Somebody did something, they should be executed, put in prison. You have their life destroyed. If we don't like them, then the appropriate punishment is the worst that I can hurt. And that's where we are now.
Which is a vengeance thing.
Yeah.
So for an example of this, say you've got a problem with the tree roots that have gone under the sidewalk and caused it to be deformed, so that it poses a health hazard for people walking, or can't ride a bike on the sidewalk or whatever. You're saying we shouldn't go to Washington to get the sidewalk fixed.
Yeah.
Or even Sacramento to get the sidewalk fixed. Or even the LA County supervisors to get it fixed. It could be done by the city, or even better, by the local neighborhood. They had that budget because they know.
Except now they have so many permits you have to need to deal with anything that.
Because you need a permit at Washington, Sacramento,
and that's where big government has taken over and killed so many community organizations and made it impossible for them to be charitable.
Yeah.
And you look where the biggest adoption agencies were, the Catholic Church and things like that. Well, the government has made it so difficult and almost impossible for a lot of the dioceses to do any adoption. And so it's in this infringement of religion, where they take over what used to be given to religion, and it's part of the secularization of society. It's a very subtle way of destroying what the churches used to always be the ones who did those things. I think it's very dangerous.
Yeah, a few years ago, I heard a restaurant owner out in the valley being interviewed on the radio, and he had a successful restaurant, but he wanted to put in some kind of brick pizza oven to give the authentic taste that he wanted, not just the typical one, but something special. And it was gonna, the cost to put it in the restaurant was somewhere $1,000 or whatever. Well, by the time he went through the permits and the regulations, it was pre-smoke, so that was a whole another thing. The cost of it went up for all the different permits he had to spend on all this and that. It cost him about $50,000.
He's lucky he was only 50,000.
But he didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
He
Right.
didn't do it.
See, that's what happens.
Well, I ran a retreat center, and every year we would get the shakedown from the county. They would come in and they said, well, the county has new regulations, and you're not up to it. So it's a $10,000 fine. I'm going, but last year this still works. He said, no, $10,000, you got to change it. So it would cost $10,000 plus. And finally, after about 10 years, same guy, and he said, I'm sorry, Father. He said, this is the way we raise money. You're just going, are you kidding me? You know, it just, but that's when the all-powerful government,
because it's hungry.
Squashes.
Its maw is always open, and it needs more and more.
Yep. And not saying you're doing a great service to families and to individuals, and to healing, and we need you, and we're going to support you. No, we're going to try to crush you.
Okay. Well, looks like we need to start recruiting some officials for political office and to work for the government who actually have these Christian values in mind.
And the common good.
Yeah.
Problem is, you probably can't get elected unless you're willing to sell out.
Well,
First.
That we talked about yesterday.
and about pushing those buttons from the various special interest groups and all. And sometimes, and this is the statesmanship quality that we're missing in so many people, is the idea of letting people know, to be able to say no to a group. There are certain limits as far as what your interests are before they start to undercut the common good as a whole. And so, yeah, I have to stand up and say that's not a good thing. As unpleasant as it might be for me to say that, that's the best thing for our country as a whole.
Yes.
But that immediately sets off the end of your career.
I'm not sure how we started with St. Francis and ended up here.
Well, we need it would be great to have a politician
With the heart of Francis.
who would say to God, make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. How many people, the talking heads that have been on television for the last 3 or 4 days, have been trying to be a channel of God's love?
They are just trying to figure out the right thing to say so it'll be good for the next campaign. Nothing more than that. Who was the one, I can't think of his name now, Catholic Speaker of the House a few years ago who got out?
Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan. Did you know him?
Yeah.
And?
I think he's a good man.
Yeah.
I think he's a very decent, good man. I knew his speechwriter. He was a good, close friend of mine. Yeah.
Did he have the right heart?
I didn't know him enough to know. I think so. I think he had a good heart. Again, I didn't know him like I knew a lot of other politicians.
Because he got out.
Well, I was going to say, there's one that
A lot of the people who've gotten out were the best. I'll tell you right away.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that's one of the factors I don't know either. I know some people who know and respect him very highly, but if you're looking for a green flag or a red flag about integrity,
Yeah.
it might be the person who walks away from power. Here he is Speaker of the House, and he turns it away because he wants to spend more time with his family and be a good father.
Yeah.
That's the guy you almost want to force. No, we insist, and we'll accommodate you. Fewer hours of work. We need you.
Yeah.
But
That's what the You know, the survivors of the death camps during World War II said that when they came out, the best of us died in there. The ones who were willing to give up their lives to help others. The best of us died.
Yep. Well, I could name 10 or 15 who walked away from power and are exceptional people.
Well, we have gone very long over. It's 40 minutes, so all right, we should close with Father Tony.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.